Of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network for any and all things Star Wars. I'm your host, as always, Katie, and joining me today is not Clay. Clay is under the weather and was not feeling great. So instead, you're stuck with my sister. Say hello, Ansley, the person who wants to get into all things Star Wars now. Say hello.
Hi everyone. I'm a baby Star Wars nerd. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Katie.
I needed a fill-in, so you were the last. I'm just kidding. I love you. No, you wanted when I was doing Slice of Film, you talked about wanting to do like Ferris Bueller's Day Off or something, and I was like, you know what? I'm not doing that one anymore, but maybe she'll want to come and talk about some Star Wars.
Why not?
So why not? You know? And you get to ask all the questions now, and I get to either act like I know stuff or have to Google it on Wikipedia. So yeah, we'll
Sounds
see what
great.
um so before we get into the episode today, I do have to hit the podcast paperwork side of things. Star Wars Alliance is a part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance podcast network. We have 7 shows, 7 days a week, most of the time. You can find all of that in the description box below, whether you're on the podcast channel or you're on YouTube. The second thing is there are 3 ways to support us as a podcast. The very first way is via Patreon, where we have 2 tiers. The $5 tier gets y'all access to the live Patreon call-in show, exclusive episodes, any early episodes we may drop, as well as ad-free episodes. There is also a $1 tier, which helps keep the Kyber crystals charged around here. The second way to support us is via the ads. We're an ad-supported show, ad-supported network. I will give you a warning before those ads are to occur, but just so you know now, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how many times you hear the same ad in the same episode, nor how loud those ads are, so that warning is just to help you prepare those volume levels. Third and final way to support us is via rating and reviewing us on your favorite podcatcher of choice. Those reviews seriously help put us into the feeds of other listeners who may not be following us on social media. The last bit of podcast work, we are not going to be doing book club today because obviously we need Clay for that. So book club will resume next week. So all we're going to be talking about is Ahsoka Part 4, The Fallen Jedi. This is a full spoiler review. So we're going to dive right into it. Again, it's on Disney Plus. So make sure if you haven't seen it and want to see it before you listen to the episode, go watch it and then come back because this is the place to be. And this is a very spoiler episode because we're going to dive right on into things. So, alrighty. Whew, that was a lot of words.
Good job.
So where do you want to go first? I try. Where do you want to go first?
I really want to talk about this Balin character. I really do because he is super interesting to me. Obviously, this being Ahsoka is the first time we've heard of him. He kind of feel like he came out of nowhere, especially to me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, whoa, who is this guy? Why is he so mysterious? Can't wait to find out more about him. What do you think?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think Ray Stevenson, rest in peace, sir. Like, I wish you were here to see the reaction you were getting on social media and everything, because like everybody loves Balin as a character. He's just super interesting. Stevenson pulls like all this sort of intrigue out, and you just keep wanting to know who is this guy? Like, what is he? And we do have a theory from David, but we'll get into that at the end of the podcast. But like we know he's a previous Jedi because Hu Yang had record of his lightsaber and everything. So we know that he was part of the Jedi Order. But what caused him to get here? I need to know. I need to know these things.
Right. I totally agree. I can tell, like, he obviously sympathizes a lot still with the Jedi. You hear in episode 2 where Morgan was talking to him about making sure that, Ahsoka was get rid of her. She's done. And he was like, it would really be a shame to kill her because she's the last of the Jedi. So you get that sympathy from him, and you're like, okay, so there's some good character in there. You also in this latest episode when he's talking with Sabine and he's talking to his apprentice, he's like, I'm going to keep my word that I promised her she'd be safe. Nothing's going to happen to her because That's what I said. So you see some good character qualities from him.
Yeah, but he also throws in a line at the same time. He says, "I'm gonna keep my word," unlike her master does.
I
And
did
I
think that was
have to
interesting.
wonder because Ahsoka acts like she's never met Balin before
Right.
and is like, because he says in this episode, and y'all, this is like in one of the biggest trailers kind of that went super viral because it had the um Hayden Christensen, Anakin Skywalker dialogue over it. But like he like completely is like, "Oh yeah, Anakin always spoke well of you," or whatever. And she's like, "Funny, he never mentioned you." So, like, I gotta like, there's more details there, and I have to wonder if we're gonna get them in the next episode because of the person who comes in at the end.
Oh yeah, he was throwing some shots at Ahsoka. He was all like, "This is the only way you know," when they were like fighting and stuff like that. And then he was like, when he's talking to Sabine, he's like, "You're not like your master," and then, "Your master
Mhm.
doesn't trust you." I'm like, wow, he is really throwing some shade at Ahsoka right now. I don't know where that bitterness lies. Oh, and he also was talking about
Especially
how he abandoned. Is that why you abandoned your master? Yeah, I'm like, whoa,
yeah, and especially when he throws in the pot shot of like, "Oh, your family is dead because of your master. She didn't trust you." And it's like, "Oh, okay, so that's what happened to Sabine's family." Because in Mandalorian season 3, everyone's kinda wondering, "Okay, where is Ursa Wren?" Because she was always a supporter of Bo-Katan.
right,
So now we know, but I have to wonder, did it come out of maybe the, Night of a Thousand Tears or something else that happened? Because he specifically says Mandalore.
right,
And we also know that well, okay, so we knew in Rebels that the Wrens were not based on Mandalore. They were based
right,
on a planet in the system. So it's like, okay, what happened?
right.
Just more details up in the air. It's really annoying.
Yeah,
I just
I'm
want to
I'm
know things now.
I wanna know. I texted you after I watched the episode, I was like, "Great, now I just have more questions." I didn't answer any of them.
Yeah. Um, for sure. So we've talked about Balin, but this episode is directed by Peter Ramsey, who did I think he directed some episodes in Book of Boba Fett, but I know he was in Mandalorian season 3. Um, and he did a phenomenal job with the lightsaber fights. Like especially looking back between episodes 1 and 2, like these fights, especially in how dark Satos is, like it's incredible how detailed they look, but also how fluid everything looks. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was super good, filming wise. I know we've talked. I don't notice all the different things, but as far as like just like the actual like fight itself, though, not necessarily how it was filmed, but the fight itself, I felt like they're focusing a lot more on how, like, this being a Jedi is, like, really an art, you know?
Yeah.
Even in, like, episode 3 where Ahsoka's, going back to training Sabine, and they're pulling out all those different techniques and things like that, and then you see, like, their poses at the beginning, they're very slow, they're very calculated, it's like a it's very much like they're showing it more as an art to me, which is like what the Jedi was all about, like going to the temple and learning it and being it and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a very good point because you look so we had a fight between uh Merritt and Ahsoka, which looked very crude, very like out of the very like Inquisitor Jedi fight, like we
Yeah,
kind of came to know in Rebels. And then you have the Sabine Shin fight, which kind of balances the two because Sabine is still using her Mandalorian skills. And I loved seeing those, by the way. Like her pulling out all of the stops with all the different Mandalorian tools, especially when she goes to like act like she's doing a force push and you hear the sound that is typically done with a force push, which makes me think that it was like a tiny one and just nobody kind of realized it. but like she's like opening the door to herself, but then she pulls out it was the rockets, right?
The rockets right after Shin says you have no power, and then she
Yeah.
pulls out those. I'm like, okay, yeah, we don't need for all the forcey moves. We got other things we can use too. That was awesome.
And it's just funny going back to her dark saber training with Kanan, and
Yes,
he's just telling her like you might not have these, like you're gonna have to learn how to defend yourself with these, and she's like, yeah, I'm good. Like I got this.
right, for sure. And then you get the fight between uh Ahsoka and Balin, and you're just like, whoa, this is like beautiful, you know? They're like doing
Well, like
flips and turns and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow.
yes. And like you look and so like I don't know if you remember like the boss fights that Kirk used to do where like you go through the story and like you'd have like a story moment and then they'd all come together and they'd be like, yeah, well I'm gonna take you down now. It felt like that when they were doing their poses. Like it was like a
Yeah.
zoom, and then like I'm bouncing back and forth waiting for to be used as an attack.
Yeah. And normally I'm like, okay, you're such a poser. That's so dramatic for no reason. But for some reason, I was like all about it.
Yeah, it just looks super good. This is probably the happiest I've been with a Rosario Dawson Ahsoka performance in the show so far.
Yeah.
It just felt like snips
Yes.
from the Clone Wars.
I agree. I think that was the hardest thing for me to like w- watching Ahsoka versus watching Clone Wars. And I'm just like, oh, she looks so boring and mature and dull now. But you got to think of like everything she's been through. And at this point, has just got to have been like made her like really like a lot more serious than she, was in Clone Wars.
Yeah, especially with and this is going back to what Balin was saying, like how he goes, your Jedi legacy is one of death and destruction. Like
Yeah.
I know like she was Anakin's apprentice in the Clone Wars. So like, but that destruction I would think would fall on him. So what has Ahsoka done in the 9 years? That's the question I keep coming back to. Is what has happened since Rebels to Ahsoka?
Right.
What has she been up to?
I would love to know that. More questions that don't have answers.
Um, all right, so Matt sent me, and this is kind of off topic of the episode, but I kind of wanted to like say it, but he sent me this like it was I think it was an Instagram reel, but it was talking about how we know now why Ahsoka didn't want to train Grogu because he had attachments built up to Din Djarin. And everybody was like, well, Ahsoka left the Jedi Order. She had kind of come to a balance of, okay, it's okay to have attachments while like still balancing everything. Um, and now we kind of know that Sabine was trained by Ahsoka in this gap in time, which would probably have resulted in Ahsoka's unwillingness to train
Oh.
Grogu because Sabine is attached to Ezra, her family, all this sort of thing.
Wow. That was a piece of info that I didn't have. That's new. That's good stuff.
Yeah. And it's just it's good to see them filling in these gaps,
For sure.
especially in characters we know and love. So, okay, how have you felt about Shin thus far in the
Uh,
first four episodes?
I mean, I feel like I could do without her. I feel like it's constantly like I feel like if Balin did the job himself, it would get done right. But he's just like, you go do it. I don't know. I know it's like, okay, but she's failed so many times thus far. You're actually gonna send your apprentice to face Ahsoka. Like that's your strategy there. Like, come on, we gotta be smarter than that. We gotta know that she's not there yet. I don't know what she is yet. She's an interesting one. She just seems very angry too.
Yeah, she's been like the stonewall silent type of person for the first three episodes. I actually liked her a lot more in this episode because I felt like she gave more personality. Like she just wasn't a stone wall. Like I liked seeing the anger come
The
out.
anger, okay. I was like, if by if by emotion you mean more anger, then yeah.
And don't get me wrong, she had anger, but it was like she'd have it like for like 15 seconds
Right.
in the
No, you're
episode,
right.
and then nothing would happen. And so it was just nice to see her come to life a little bit. So, and I credit that fully to Peter Ramsey. Peter Ramsey only got one episode to direct, so it was just this one. So I'm interested to see how Shin changes over the next couple episodes because all directors are different.
Right.
So, um, all right, we gotta talk about Hu Yang too. So Hu Yang is trying to repair the ship, and he gets attacked by the droids at the very beginning. And this scene was sent out by Star Wars, like the very beginning of Tuesday morning. And I love David Tennant so much. He's
Yeah.
so good. Like that's all I can really say because the scene really doesn't have much significance. It just kind of delays him in putting the fulcrum back together. Um and then he has a little moment where he's like, "Stay together, please." And then they don't even listen to that anyways when
I
they go
know
off
that.
to retrieve the map. But
I'm glad you brought. I'm like, wow, the very first thing they did was split up, so that's awesome. And you almost thought they were gonna stay together because they're like, "We got this," and then you got the nice little lighthearted music playing in the background. I'm like, "Oh, we're having a moment." No, immediately splits up, but I'm like, "Well, that's over." But I am glad you brought up Hu Yang because I literally have in my notes right here, star, 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 give a shout out to Hu Yang, our guy, kicking booty, because not only is he smart
yes.
and helping out, every aspect, he also can fight a little bit and hold his own. So my guy Hugh Yang is a is awesome.
Yes, he's a beast, and he's 75% original parts. I can't get that out of my head. Like, that's just so funny. The droid is 25,000 years old and still has 75% of its original parts. I just can't, like, that's amazing to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, we don't know, I guess, how him and Ahsoka ran back into each other yet, do we?
No, no, we do not.
Well, if
I
I can believe he's a survivor though by watching him thus far. I think he you know, yeah. I have no finishing thoughts to that.
your train ran away,
It
basically.
did. It did.
Um, that happens to me a lot.
Yeah,
Star Wars
I'm new
Alliance
here,
fans,
guys.
y'all
Cut me
know.
some slack. This is my first one.
You're doing great. You're doing great. Um, okay, so we talked about Hu Yang, we talked about Shin, we talked about Balin, we kind of talked about Ahsoka. Okay, Merrick. So Merrick and Ahsoka fight, right? And we talked about it. It's a very crude fight, very much like anger. Merrick doesn't say a lot again, but it really doesn't matter because the dude turns to dust. Ahsoka
Yeah.
gets one clean swipe in, and the man explodes. Basically, he
Yeah.
decompresses. What did you think about that?
That I was honestly like, I was trying to recall if any of the other inquisitors had died that way. And I I can't remember, like, I'm like, do I need to rewatch everything all over again to find out how they die? Like, is that like an inquisitor thing, or is that like maybe because she has just the purest lightsabers or whatever, that her lightsabers now have that power because she got them from a previous inquisitor and cleansed the crystals in there. I'm like, I don't
Very
know.
good. Way to pull out your Ahsoka knowledge.
I just read that book, guys. So
Okay, so
I honestly did know.
I'm gonna answer your first question. Uh, is that the way Inquisitors die? So the only times we've really seen Inquisitors die is kind of implied, and it's in I think it's the end of season 2 of Rebels, and then plus like the Grand Inquisitor in season 1.
Right,
Um, so in those cases, we didn't really see Dust. We kind of see the Inquisitor fall to his death, but we don't really see a body kind of thing.
right.
Um, the fifth brother and seventh sister die off screen in the Rebels season 2 finale. So we don't really know about them. Eighth brother is also in that episode, and we assume he dies off screen because remember his lightsaber gets hit and he helicopters away but then falls.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
So we're assuming he dies. So a lot of the theories with Merrick was that he was potentially the eighth brother reincarnated kind of thing, got away maybe in the world between worlds with Ahsoka, because that was where Ahsoka got pulled into the world between worlds originally by Ezra. So, and his visor that he wears looks very similar to the one Eighth Brother was wearing, except the Eighth Brother had more like a wide helmet design.
Right.
So, that was kind of my theory, was that he was Eighth Brother. Um, Another popular theory, and you're not going to know this one, but another popular theory was that he was Starkiller, which is a Legends character. And it was he's the main character of the Force Unleashed video games. And he's played by Sam Witwer in the video games. So,
Wow.
and so yeah, I don't know what I expected you to say because I literally was like, you're not gonna know who this is. Um, but so basically, Starkiller in Legends, he was basically an inquisitor without the inquisitor name. He was an apprentice. I can't remember if it was Darth Vader or it was Sidious, but it was one of the two. But he basically goes rogue, lots of force lightning, that kind of thing. But he was basically an inquisitor, which is why people were like, "Oh, they're gonna make Starkiller canon with this inquisitor Merrick right here."
Oh, okay, I got you. Because I was about to say, I'm like, you're bringing legends in. I know that's not canon. That's the one thing I know. I know that's. I remember you being so upset when it was declared not canon. But you can definitely tell, like, he's obviously got the little circular lightsaber thing that Inquisitors have. Um, so I was definitely thinking, obviously, Inquisitor. Um, but what you're
Right.
saying is too that no one else thought of the Kyber crystals having superpowers. That was just me.
No. But that's the next part that I was gonna get to.
Okay, because I'm
So
like, I wanna patent that idea right there. If that becomes what it is, I called it first.
I know. But unfortunately I don't think that's accurate. But remember, Morgan Elsbeth is a Night Sister.
Oh yeah,
And what are Night Sisters really good at? Raising zombie armies and making weapons out of ashes and stuff. And
yeah, you're right.
um we see with Maul in particular and Maul's brother that when Maul's brother dies, like all this like smoke curls up and everything. So I think that's the more likely answer.
Yeah, you're right. That theory's better. Dang it, should have thought of
I'm sorry to wreck your hopes and dreams.
that. That's okay.
Okay, so that we talked about Merrick. Um, I liked seeing live action Sabine in her armor and everything.
Yep.
Um, so okay,
I'm
one of
hoping
my
someone takes
friends,
up her helmet. I feel like that helmet just got left
right?
there.
And I feel like because that's where her communicator is. Um, Sorry, there's a gnat and it was distracting me.
Get it. Get it.
Um, so one of my friends said that he feels like Ahsoka may have the map burned into her hand because remember she picks it up and that's when the map comes off originally. And she's wearing like basically fingerless gloves
Right.
in this case. Um and I think that's very likely. However, I have an issue with it because the map isn't the outside of the globe. It's the inside because Sabine has to turn things and get
Right.
things to open. So I don't think so I think she's definitely gonna have the burn of the outside, but I don't think that's gonna get them anywhere with the map.
Good
But what do
point.
we do have? What do we have?
We have
Come on, you can do
we
it.
have I got this. We have the two halves. that have been broken. Glue them back together, duct tape that thing.
I don't think that's gonna work because the blade of the lightsaber was almost as big as the globe. So
All
it
right,
melted. It didn't just slice it in half, unfortunately.
we
We
have.
do have
Oh, we have that. We have that thing that's down at the bottom that calculated the hyperdrive coordinates.
okay, that might be a thing. I
Oh,
That might be a thing. That wasn't what I was gonna say.
okay. What were you
But
gonna
that's a good
say?
idea. I hadn't thought of that. We have a hyperdrive engine, which Chopper threw a tracking beacon on. And who do we have in the system ready to track? Hera and Chopper, because Hera says, "Screw you, New Republic government. I'm gonna go to Sato's anyways."
Oh yeah, is that tracker still on that ship, and that ship is now on the ring?
So it wasn't on the ship; it was on the hyperdrive engine.
Oh, and they plugged the hyperdrive engine onto the ring.
Yep.
Whoa. Now, would they be able to track through galaxy hopping?
That's my biggest thing is so okay, let me catch all the listeners up. So Hera leaves with Jason and Chopper on the Ghost. So we do get to see the Ghost back in live action. And they come with basically a squadron of X-Wing fighters, including our beloved Captain Carson, leading the way.
That was so
He's
good
so
to see
great.
him from The Mandalorian.
Yes, I love him. And I think so we had a Rhodian pilot, and then we had a couple other pilots, and I think they were the directors. So I think one of them was Deborah Chow, who directed Obi-Wan Kenobi. She was the showrunner. I think
Okay.
another one was Peter Ramsey, who was the director for this episode. And then
That's
there was
cool that
one
they get
other
their little
guy.
moments.
Yeah. It's cool to become a part of the fictional galaxy of Star Wars. Like
Yeah, they're
just those
Stan
little
Lee this
moments.
thing.
Yeah, this is very true. Um, so they show up and the ring takes off into hyperspace and goes through the Ghost and the X-Wing fighters.
Yes.
So that's kind of like we're all like caught up. Now, some of the X-Wings end up crashing or exploding, but the Ghost manages to stay alive. Basically, what it looks like is they got an ion charge.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't because it's a ring, the the sh- the X-Wings and the Ghost were in the center and weren't directly impacted by the ring. So I think just the energy that went through because Carson specifically says, "Oh, that's a high power reading right there. Like they're about to try and take off." And so it's a lot of power going through. So that's where everybody is. Um Now, the biggest question, because you asked, are they going to be able to track through multiple galaxies? I think so, because what they're calculating on the bottom with the map in like the circle thing, I don't know what it's called, but with the map down on the planet Satos, they're generating hyperspace coordinates.
Right.
So I think the hyperspace coordinates are still good. It's simply a matter of the amount of power you need to get to hyperspace,
Right. So how
to
are they
get
gonna do
to
that?
hop those galaxies.
So you couldn't just use
That's
the
the
ghosts
I don't know because the other thing that a lot of people have been trying to think of is why would you need a ring to go to hyperspace? Why wouldn't you just use a superstar destroyer or something?
because it looks cool. To be different. Everyone wants to be different, you know.
Uh, a lot of people are thinking that they specifically built the hyperspace ring to bring back the Chimera.
Oh, I was almost gonna say that.
Yeah,
Like as you were saying it, I was like, well, what did they use the rings around the starships, you know? So they send it there to bring back the. Oh, that was coming through my head as you were saying it. Actually, I'm proud of myself for that one.
good job. Very proud of you. But yeah,
Thank
so
you.
what do you think about that? Bringing back not just Thrawn and Ezra, because Sabine makes the deal with Balin, to go with them. And now, here's what we didn't talk about this, but my thing with Sabine making the deal. I 100% believe this is within her character. Like, she's not a Jedi. She's a Mandalorian. She's always picked her family and friends above doing anything else. And I know she makes the promise to Ahsoka at the beginning, like, oh yeah, you can trust me. I'll make the right decision. But Sabine's never done that.
No, no, I mean, I wasn't surprised she did that at all. I mean, I was still mad about it, but I like understood
Yeah.
and I didn't think, like you said, it was within her character and she's totally gonna do that. I was talking to you when we first started watching Ahsoka live, and I'm just like, I can't stand Sabine. And then I was like, I didn't really like Sabine in Rebels that much because she was like that. It's like you too, and like you love it because obviously, like if I'm her family member, like I want her on my side because she's gonna protect me. But if you're
Yeah.
like thinking about the like for the greater good of everybody, and I'm like, oh, God, like come on. Which,
I want Kanan or I want Ezra on my team.
yeah, I want Zeb. Give me my Lasat.
Oh yeah. Were you okay? So a lot of people were like, why wasn't Zeb in one of the X-Wing fighters? Because he's in fighter pilot gear when we see him in The Mandalorian, season 3. So where's
What?
Zeb? Did you miss that?
I completely missed that. Hold up. Time out. Let me go watch the episode real fast. No, I need to rewatch that right now. What episode is
Okay,
it?
hang on.
Are we sure?
Zeb
It's been
in
confirmed that that's Zeb?
chapter 21. The pirates. So yeah. Um, here we
My
go.
boy Zeb.
Here's a here's a YouTube, and we're just gonna go ahead and do this right now. Excuse me. This is share screen. Okay, here we go.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm taking out the audio though because I don't want to get copyright strike,
Okay.
and it's on my weird screen. So I'm sorry, y'all. There's
Oh
Zeb
my
right
gosh.
there talking
Right
to
beside
Carson.
Carson. No way. Wow, how did that not click with me? I don't know. I don't know, guys. But that's
he's
awesome.
he's never addressed as Zeb, I don't think, but that is it's in episode 5. So I don't think it's a post credit, but I think it is like towards the end of the scene end of the episode. But maybe it's right smack dab in the middle. But he doesn't ever specifically say that he never Carson never says thanks Zeb for your words of advice or whatever. Um
Right.
all he does is like talk to him, but then in the credits you see Zeb voiced by Steve Blum.
Whoa.
So as soon as he came on screen, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's Zeb!" And but like because it's not confirmed in the episode, you had to wait till the credits to get to the very end, and then go like, "Okay, who is this person?"
That's
So,
amazing. Well, now I'm even more upset that he's not in
huh,
Ahsoka, and I want him and my boy Alexander Callis in Ahsoka. Like I want to
I
see them.
know. That's the other question. Where's Callus?
Where is Callis? I need him in my life.
I know. Everybody's wanting Chris Evans to play him. I know.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
Um, but okay, so the other thing because you mentioned Jace in the thing
Yeah.
with Hera. I thought it was, at the end, right at the end, he says, I have a bad feeling about this. And I'm like, ooh, is he getting like force senses just like his father, you know?
Yeah. He's totally force sensitive.
He's
Because
totally force sensitive.
I've always felt like Hera had some force potential in her, not enough to get like into the Jedi Academy and everybody. And obviously we're learning in Ahsoka that everybody has force potential. Everybody, no matter who you are. I think with Hera being the pilot she is, she has the instincts of the force. And that's
Right.
why she's such a great pilot. And y'all can hate me all you want if you hate that idea, but that's my headcanon. Um so
Well, I also just think, like, everyone having that force potential is interesting because obviously, like, Sabine must choose to, you know, take on Ahsoka as her master and try to learn the ways of the Force, even though she literally can't feel it at all. So I'm like, why did she decide to do this? Is this for Ezra to? I guess we need to. Do we have that answer yet? I don't think we do understand
We
why
don't.
she wants to be a Jedi because she seems to hate every second of it.
What would you prefer? So obviously, there's only 4 episodes left of Ahsoka. Do we think that we're gonna get flashbacks to them initially training together?
I hope so.
You hope so? Okay,
Yeah,
so if it's not in the show, would you prefer to have like an animated show or like a book, like going into their training together?
probably a show.
Yeah,
Just because if they're gonna be training together, like, I wanna see the training, you gotta see like, I enjoyed watching those training exercises in episode 3 where, she puts on the face shield and she can't see,
yeah.
and you got Ahsoka tapping her with the stick and kinda bullying her, like, you can't get that in reading it in a book, you know? I know you're a book reader, and I know you have an amazing
I would argue
imagination.
I would argue with you on some of these because some of these Star Wars books, like Master and Apprentice, for instance, by Claudia Gray, goes into Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi and
Ooh,
them training and stuff. And some of those scenes are quite funny. Even though I'm not a huge fan of that book, they were really good. Um, and the audio dramas do a really good job illustrating like lightsaber fights and everything. So,
gotcha. I'll take your word for it.
uh okay. So we kind of glossed over Sabine taking the deal, but I think again, we were both kind of expecting it. She does get force choked by Shin. Shin is not happy that Sabine gets to come along for the ride at all whatsoever.
Angry
Um
Shin. Angry Shin.
so yeah, Balin destroys the map and then they basically take off. Morgan calculates the hyperspace drive, or they're done calculating the hyperspace coordinates. So Morgan sends them off with Balin, Shin, and Sabine on the hyper ring with them. Um, my biggest thing, and I forgot to mention this earlier, was Sabine taking the deal. Balin never says that she can come back with Ezra. He only specifically says no harm will come to you. If she's left in another galaxy with Ezra, no harm technically comes to her.
It's a good point, and I felt like he was very specific with his words too.
Yeah, that's my
Hmm,
worry. But again, I think, or I'm fairly certain, Hera and Ahsoka and Huyang, Jason and Chopper and everybody are going to be chasing after them, and
right.
they're going to end up in the galaxy one way or another.
I
Specifically,
totally agree. I'm also just back to Balin and his mysteriousness. Like, why does he want Thrawn to come back? Like, what?
so I don't. A lot of people don't think he actually wants Thrawn to come back. Remember, on the Chimera, there's the Lothal temple pieces that Thrawn had pulled that Palpatine brought Ezra into and
Right,
was like, here's your parents, you can go back to them, you can create this life kind of thing.
right.
Um so people are thinking that that's what Balin is after
Hmm,
because the temple was fully destroyed.
right.
And so that's all that's left. Does that make
That,
sense?
yeah, that's interesting because he does, still seem to have like those Jedi sympathies and things like that. So him wanting, I guess that legacy for any reason, whatever it might be, that would make sense. That would make much more sense than wanting Thrawn. Like, I mean, if they're mercenaries, why would you want someone like Thrawn back? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But going back, to the state of that the Chimera left in, that the Purgles grabbed it and yanked it. I mean, it was in pretty bad shape too. So I'm like,
But that
'Cause
was
that thing
we
even
only saw the bridge. We didn't see the rest of the ship.
yeah, you're right.
That's the perks with animation. You can only hit so much detail. Um, so at the end of Balin and Ahsoka's fight, Shin comes out running because she's left Sabine behind because she knew that the map was out of place. So she comes to help her master because she assumes everything's going bad. So then Ahsoka kind of panics and is like, "Oh crap, Sabine!" And this is where Ahsoka's
Right,
attachment comes out because she's like, "Oh no, Sabine's gone."
right.
And so she panics. She throws Shin up against a rock, but then Sabine comes out of the forest, gets the map, and is holding the gun to it. And Ahsoka's like, "You need to destroy it." And Balin's like, "Don't destroy it, don't do it," kind of thing,
Yeah.
and ends up knocking Ahsoka off the cliff into the water. And then Balin proceeds to have his conversation with Sabine and everything. And I know we're jumping around, guys. I'm sorry. I do apologize. But
It's probably my fault.
no, Clay and I do this all the time. It's bad. But I wanted to save this part to the end. Because I feel like it's probably the biggest reveal, and it's going to have a lot of ideas with next week's episode, which is directed by Dave Filoni and is apparently a 50-minute episode. So, Ahsoka wakes up in the last, 45 seconds of the episode?
Yeah, very yeah, right at the end, yeah.
And so she wakes up in the world between worlds. She's lying on one of the blue bridges, like, and you can see like the little silhouette where she's laying on because in and I love this attention to detail. This is like the things that I love as like a nitpicky Star Wars fan. Um, in the animated show, you see Ezra and Ahsoka's footprints as they're landing and all that pressure that they're putting on the bridge. And so you see all of that, and it's all rippling when Ahsoka's moving around and getting up and everything. And she's like, she gets up, she looks around and is like, how did I end up here? Like, where was the portal kind of thing is what it feels like on her face. But then she hears a mysterious voice, and that's literally what it's labeled in the captions is mysterious voice. And it says, "Hello, Snips. I didn't expect to see you so soon." And then we see Mr. Anakin Skywalker, Hayden Christensen. She turns around and sees him in all his glory with his de-aged CGI self. And the last thing we hear in the episode is Master. And he smiles at her and everything. So that's the end of the episode. How did you feel getting to see Hayden Christensen as live action Anakin Skywalker and Rosario Dawson as live action Ahsoka on screen together?
Oh, it literally like, I loved watching Clone Wars so much. I just love the way those 2 interact, like Padawan and Master, like, they're, like, the best, you know? You watch, like, Luminara and her Padawan, and they're not cool, you know? It's like that dynamic duo, you know? And I loved it so much, and then I, obviously watching everything in order, jumped to Revenge of the Sith, and I'm like, "Ugh, how does Anakin turn into this? He's so good." You just love him so much in the Clone Wars, you know? So watching him bring him back in this and he's, looks like he's happy and they're interacting and I'm just like, it's bringing back those Clone Wars memes and I loved them so much in that. I did think it was obviously it was Anakin, like he's not ghost form or anything like that. It didn't look like he was
Yeah.
dead. So I'm just like, whoa, like how did he get here and how did he's not aged or anything? So I'm like, whoa, there's again so many questions now, more questions than I have answers.
Yeah, and I'm a little worried that they're still gonna treat him as a Force ghost and kind of go like, "Oh, well, it's the world between worlds, so he looks different." So that way, basically giving us an excuse for like, "Oh, that way we didn't have to like make him look blue the entire way."
Right.
Through because I feel like in the next episode, and we're gonna talk about this, but the next episode, I feel like they're gonna be doing a lot of walking down memory lane and getting Ahsoka to the point she needs to be at to go after Ezra, to go after Sabine, and to really try and like kick everything into left gear kind of thing. So I'm a little worried about that because I want the continuity. Like a Force Ghost always looks blue.
Right.
Like that's what I want as a nitpicky Star Wars person. That's who I am. I'm sorry, guys. Um, but like also like just reading some of the different books and hearing how Obi-Wan always generates himself, they always appear kind of the same way, and they can go outside of time and space, which is what the World Between Worlds is. And that's specifically referenced in a couple of the From a Certain Point of View stories with Obi-Wan as a Force ghost and everything. So I want that continuity. I don't think they're gonna do it, but I can't think of a reason that Anakin would be in the World Between Worlds that we wouldn't have known about in Clone Wars.
And I thought it was interesting too because he acted kind of, he's like, I didn't expect to see you so soon, is what he said. And I'm just like, okay, so obviously he wasn't the one that pulled her, because if he pulled her, then he would have been like, here you are. Yeah, I was obviously looking for you because I grabbed you. So the
Yeah.
way he phrased it too made me think he wasn't even the one that pulled her, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I was like, how did she end up getting there? And because he's very surprised, it seems.
Yeah. And so I've already referenced the CGI de-aging portion. It threw me off last night because in Obi-Wan Kenobi, right, we get the flashback scene where Anakin is a Padawan and everything, and they just used makeup to make them look younger.
Right.
So in this case, I was like, it's a little weird, like just seeing him so smooth and baby face and everything.
It was
Um,
definitely.
it weirded me out a little bit. I'm glad it weirded you out too, because Matt was like, just enjoy the moment. Shut up, just enjoy it. And I was like, but he's smooth. Like it's weird.
Well, they've kind of
Um,
done it with lots now, I feel like, with Tarkin
yeah.
and with Leia. So I feel like just a Star Wars thing at this point.
Unfortunately, yeah. But like in this case, also watching it for the second time today, it didn't look as bad. So that made me feel a little bit better. And I think it was just like the shock of like
Right.
seeing it last night. Um and Travis Snell and I like kind of talked about this last night, but it's like as long as it's for a recurring role and not necessarily like, oh, we're gonna get Anakin and Ahsoka Clone Wars live action reboot kind of thing.
Right.
I would want to recast for that. In this
Yes.
case, I won't necessarily think it's that big a deal.
I totally agree. I totally
So
agree.
Um, so yeah, that brings us to the end of the episode. So you've seen all of the live action, all of the animation. How would you rate this episode out of 5?
Out of 5,
Yeah.
I give it I give it a solid 4. I feel like it was
You
a
give it a
solid
solid 4?
I give it a solid 4. It was on the it was definitely above average. We might even give it like a 4.5. Not perfect because it leaves me angry feeling that I have all of these more questions, but the fact that, like, I feel like it was on script with everybody. I didn't think anything was like, that shouldn't have happened. Like, I mean, I feel like it's going in the right direction. I feel like it was really good. Like, it's still escalating too, like with the fight scenes, more character development in it, and more questions leaves me wanting more. So maybe we raise it up. We give it a 4.5.
Yeah, I'm definitely like in my written review that I haven't written yet, but I'm close to finishing it. Hopefully, maybe we'll see. I gave it the rating scale on Full Circle is out of 10, so I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. I think this is one of the best Star Wars television episodes that feels Star Warsy. Like it is
Yeah,
very traditional Star Wars with the lightsabers and everything. I love Andor. I rated Andor so highly when talking about it and reviewing it, but like that feels like a spy element of Star Wars and
yeah,
not like George Lucas Star Wars.
yeah.
This is like one of the best episodes, I feel like. And the lightsaber fights. I really think this is the best live action lightsaber fights of the Disney era in
Yeah,
this episode.
totally agree.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about this theory from David really fast, and then we'll kind of talk some small predictions about next week's episode. Again, 50 minutes, Dave Filoni, so I'm giving you time to think. All right, so David said, "Hi y'all. New job means more time to listen to books and podcasts on the road, but hella busy." I feel that, David. I feel that on a deep and personal level. Uh, he said, "I felt good hearing someone mention the Purgle's migratory paths. But I have another theory that I wanted to share with you. This one about Balin. This is only a hope. There's not really any solid evidence. I think Balin is eventually, or perhaps was, the mirror character of Joruus Sabath, or maybe Jorus. Instead of introducing a brand new Jedi that we don't know, we're getting him in this air prologue. So Joruus Sabath is, I'm just giving you brief history. Joruus Sabath is a dark Jedi that the clone, at least, is a dark Jedi that Thrawn pulls in because he loves the idea of battle meditation. And battle meditation increases a fleet's accuracy and fighting potential by about 30%. And this is all, again, in Legends, but it feels like they're taking the Heir to the Empire trilogy and kind of converting it for canon. And that's what
Mm.
Dave Filoni's movie is going to be. So that's kind of your history right there. Uh, Jorus ends up taking Luke's hand from Cloud City and making a Luke Skywalker clone that Luke has to fight. And this is kind of I told you to read this book next, so I'm gonna stop it there. But like, if you wanted to dive into it, that's kind of like what you're getting into along with Thrawn. Um, does that all make sense? Do you have questions other than like I need to go read this book so I don't have questions?
That's so wild. Who grabs a cut off hand and decides to clone someone? That's sick.
So the Emperor had actually salvaged it from the garbage on Cloud City and was keeping it as a trophy. And Jerus pulled it out of the Emperor's storeroom because he wanted his own apprentice. And Luke Skywalker, he did actually do training under Jerus, but then decided, hey, I don't like this, so I'm gonna go do my own thing. So that's when he decided to clone and create his own apprentice, basically.
Wow, that's messed
Yeah.
up. The guy has no friends.
That's why he's a dark Jedi. Okay,
Interesting.
so
So they think that that's
instead of
like Balin's essential parallel character.
yeah, basically.
Okay.
So uh he said instead of introducing a brand new Jedi that we don't know, we're getting him in this air prologue. But I think we do know him. My theory is that Balin is Anakin Skywalker had he not turned into Vader. After episode 4, we can theorize that Anakin knows how to navigate the world between worlds. We kind of talked about this. Anakin's not blue, indicating that he should know world between worlds, hopefully. And so he goes on to say, my hope is that he's saved Ahsoka and is somehow cloned or duplicated, where one becomes Vader and the other grows, maybe in another time, to become Balin. He gets another Jedi apprentice since he no longer has Ahsoka, and now, for some reason, wants to get to this other galaxy. Honestly, his motivation's still very unclear. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Because past Anakin saved Ahsoka, Balin knows she's okay. He doesn't even really think about Ahsoka after sending her off the cliff. So he's basically saying Balin intentionally sent Ahsoka down to go see Anakin. And David finishes it off and says, I know it's a weak theory and my track record isn't great, but come on, how awesome would this be? Totally not happening, I know, but just in case, I'm calling it. Now, David, I think my first thought after reading this, and I sent this to Clay, and I know Clay's not here, but I was like, this is wild. And as much as I hope it's something that Disney would choose not to do, I think it's also likely because they want to play with the idea of destiny a little bit in this and kind of go, what would have happened if this didn't happen? What would have happened in this? I would want to know the split. Like, where did it happen? Because obviously, going back to the Mortis arc, we know that Anakin kind of has the recollection. Like, the son confronts him with his future of Padme's death, of him turning into Vader and everything. Obviously, he leaves Mortis and doesn't know what happened. They all don't remember what happened on Mortis. But we know. So it's like if he knew what he could be, then why didn't he just stop himself from doing that? Because I think if Anakin had kind of realized where he would end up at the end, he wouldn't have gone and Order 66, the Jedi Temple with all the younglings and stuff.
Right. And I mean, just from this episode too, I mean, maybe Balin is future Anakin, and he's speaking about like he obviously he would be then referring to himself like Anakin spoke highly of you, and then Ahsoka talks back, I'd never heard of you, um, and then all those we already talked about all the shots he was throwing at her too. Like, is that why you abandoned your master? Is that why you're stuck in your ways? That's just the way you are. You don't like you just throwing shots after shots at her, and that doesn't seem like something that Anakin would do if it was Anakin.
Yeah, especially the death and destruction comment, but not only that,
Right.
I think Anakin would have had because they've specifically said you can't have split timelines. So in Rebels, when uh Ezra and Ahsoka pass the Kanan portal, where Kanan's sacrificing himself for the crew of the Ghost. When they pass that portal, he's like, I can grab him. Like, it's not that big a deal. I can just grab him. And Ahsoka's like, no, you can't do that because then you would all die. Which makes me think, like, you can't have two people of the same, I'm just gonna, just DNA, I guess, running around together kind of thing. Like, all of it's going it's all one continuous timeline, and any decision you make affects that only timeline kind of thing. And maybe Ahsoka, I got into kind of an argument about this on Twitter, but like maybe Ahsoka wasn't supposed to be saved, like in the grand scheme of things, because when Ezra reaches in, he's technically breaking the timeline. He's reaching in from season 4 of Rebels, which is 3 years after Ahsoka is presumed dead, definitely missing on Malachor. So it's like, was if Ezra had known better and had had training on the world between worlds, would he have gone in and grabbed Ahsoka out? And would he have just let her die, kind of thing, to protect the timeline? The other thing is that Huyang knows the lightsaber that Balin built. And we know that Huyang, or at least I think Huyang only goes to Ilum with younglings. He doesn't keep records of anybody else's lightsabers because once you've kind of built your own lightsaber, you're kind of free to like add parts to it however you want because you know how to build it. So
Right.
why would he have a record of Balin's lightsaber if he wasn't very young? So Anakin would have then had to go back in time to when he was a youngling and basically taken himself to the temple to get Balin into the database at the right time, I think. So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts.
That's
It would be
probably the
very
biggest thing.
complicated to do.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the biggest thing right there, like what you said. Um, because the way I took it with Kanan, and that why she said that you can't pull him out is because he was still actively keeping all the flames and everything at bay. And if you pull him out in that moment, obviously all those flames escape and can engulf the ship. That's kind of how I took it.
Right, and that is a thing, but it's also like Ezra's right there. So are you creating a paradox by pulling Kanan out, or is Ezra just gonna disappear right there?
That's true.
So,
Sorry.
but good thoughts, David. I always love seeing your feedback and theories. It's always great to see them in the email.
I would love to see them
Speaking
turn Anakin back to good because I love him almost as much as I love Agent Callus.
um, Speaking of email, if you have feedback on any of the episodes that you've seen for Ahsoka, any books, remember you can email us, StarWarsAlliance@gmail.com. Remember, there's no A in the wars. Very important, don't forget it. Okay, so thoughts of where we're going for the next episode. Obviously, ending, we have um Ahsoka and Anakin together in the world between worlds, but we also have Hera and Carson in space above Satos, and Hu Yang is with the Fulcrum. So that's kind of where all of our characters are left. Sabine, Morgan, Baylan, Shin, they're all off, hopefully into another galaxy, kind of thing. So, what are you thinking?
I think you're right. I think we're gonna obviously get that trip down memory lane with Ahsoka and Anakin. Um, I don't know if you can hear Fitz growling right now, but he is.
Is he in your room?
He's like, "It's been an hour. Pay me attention." Yeah, he's in my room. That's our dog, guys. But I know I'm almost done. Hang in there. I definitely think we're gonna get that trip down memory lane. I think I think Hu Yang's gonna get the fulcrum up and running, and maybe they meet up and hush, not the fulcrum, whatever ship. What's the fulcrum? Yeah, it is fulcrum.
We think
Is
it's
that
the
the name of her
Fulcrum.
ship? It's the fulcrum. That's the name of her ship.
We think
Um,
so because, like, when they're remember when they're calling Hera, they're calling Hum One because that's where they're assuming Hera is at.
right. And he
Um,
says this is fulcrum.
so and he says, "Hey, this is Fulcrum," kind of thing. So
Right. Okay. So fulcrum, would they take 3, 4 ships into like one if they calculate I think they'll figure out the hyperspace, like or the routes that they need to take as
yeah,
well. Whether they're able to take that journey in the next episode, I think they'll figure out how to get there. And then I don't they're they're gonna have to go find a ship, something that can get them there also.
yeah. It'll definitely be curious to see what'll happen if Hera will potentially go back to Home One and say, "Hey, we really need this. Like, here's what we saw," and like maybe bringing footage back from the ghost. Um, because we do see Hera on Home One in the trailers saying like, I think it's "May the Force be with you." Um, so that's in the trailer, and then we see the ghost and the Fulcrum flying in the clouds, which I think we'll get in this next episode. Um, but definitely, I'm thinking the trip down memory lane. Anakin will probably provide some feedback into galaxy hopping because he's like the pilot. He kind of has ideas with these kind of things. Um, do you think we'll see a Clone Wars flashback, or is it all just going to be kind of like base memories, I guess, like where they're hearing things but not necessarily seeing them?
I feel like it's just gonna be base. I don't think they're gonna probably dig into that too much. One, they'd probably have to that'd be a lot of work. I feel like
Well, apparently, and I don't know the exact source on this, but apparently somebody was hired, and she was one of Matt Smith's kids in House of the Dragon, the teenager one, the twins.
yep.
One of them was hired potentially to be a Clone Wars Ahsoka.
Oh,
So could be interesting.
okay. That could be
Okay.
interesting.
Again, did not have like a good source on it, but that's like a big rumor is that she was hired to do Clone Wars Ahsoka.
Do you think we'll see Thrawn and Ezra in this next episode?
So we in the trailer we see Thrawn on the ring because he's in like the same like bridge that everybody's in with Morgan and everything. I don't I don't know if we'll see him in the next episode. They have liked to save the big villain to the last 2 episodes. Like Gideon in season 1 of Mandalorian
Right.
was episode 7 and then mainly episode 8. So if we haven't seen him earlier, I don't think we're gonna get him until the end.
Right. I would agree, except what are they gonna be doing the whole episode? Just traveling the whole episode?
Well, and that's the thing, with it being 50 minutes, we could get shots of them, but also they may also just skip them and focus on Anakin and Ahsoka and then Hera and Huyang
Right.
trying to figure stuff out. Because and again, this isn't really shown well on like video, but hyperspace travel in the books takes days. It's
Right.
not just travel and you're there. So if they're smart about it, I think they would kind of leave everything to the past and maybe we get Balin in like some of the flashbacks where Anakin's like, this is who Balin was, kind of thing.
So this could be the episode where we get more answers and not necessarily
Yeah.
continue to create more questions. This is the episode we're waiting for, guys.
We're past the halfway point. You have to start giving answers because otherwise people are gonna be like, where are the answers?
Right.
So
It's true. Hmm.
but all right, anything else on your brain that you want to talk about with Ahsoka?
Oh, I also just think this has nothing to do with necessarily like this specific episode, but I think Hera in general is so Hera from Rebels.
Yes.
I'm
Mary
just like
Elizabeth Winstead has done an incredible job.
I just like with her like in her like holograms, it's the support character. She's not necessarily there physically, but she's always there like giving advice and Ahsoka's like talking to her like she's just so I'm like I just remember her doing that with like all of the characters or always like, Hera, I gotta talk to you. You gotta help me out here. And of course, Hera's
Yes.
still like her own, like she's the support for everybody else, but then she's also like her own like strong character as well. But I'm just like, wow, she is so Hera. So props
Yes.
to
She's
Hera.
done really good.
Love her.
And Natasha Liu Bordizzo, who plays Sabine, has also done a really good job, I think, of
Yep.
being a mature Sabine on
Yeah.
screen. Because you don't want like identical. I think Hera's a little bit different because Hera has always been the mom figure, and Hera was older than the rest of them, so she had kind of come into her own personality and everything.
Right.
So I think the parallels there, Mary Elizabeth Winstead hits Hera perfectly, and Natasha Liu Bordizzo has matured Sabine and really got her where she needed to be.
Right. I totally agree.
Um, so which book are you gonna read next? You gonna read Heir to the Empire next?
I think Heir to the Empire is next for sure.
Whoa! Then you get to listen to Clay and I break it all down and hear Clay complain about Thrawn.
I think Thrawn is just the best bad guy ever also. I love him too, almost as much as I like
Oh,
Anakin and Agent Callus.
Clay, what are you gonna say to that, huh? Best bad guy ever. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, all right. Well, Ansley, do you want to plug any social media? We typically do this at the end where you can plug where you'll be at if people want to find you and stuff.
Really? Wow, that's awesome. Okay, guys, I'm more of a sports person myself, so follow Clemson softball. All right, follow Winthrop softball, and then you can follow me personally at Ansley G Money.
Yes. And you're on the X, right? You're on X, but
I
not
love
a lot.
X. I love X. That's my favorite. I'm not me personally posting. I just like to get in rabbit holes and read a bunch of different things and lose my mind. Instagram is probably where I post the most, and that's where you'll see all the cool softball action pics and things like that. And yeah, you can be like, "Go Tigers!"
Yep, exactly. Hopefully we'll win some football games this year.
That's right.
Y'all, you can find me on any social media platform. It's at Slice of Katie. This show you can find on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. It's Star Wars Alliance without the A in the wars. Very important. Don't forget it. Always remember you can shoot us an email with some feedback. You can also send us a text or leave us a voicemail, voice memo, whatever you want to do. Just give us a way to refer to you on the show. That number is 830-538-4828. Remember, Clay gets those and they are screened before live show times. So don't say anything bad. Come on, guys.
That's right.
Feel free to use either one of those or our Twitter DMs for any feedback on the show. If you'd like to see us change something, if you'd like to see us add something, always down for feedback. Love hearing from you guys. Yeah. With that, this brings us to conclusion. So I hope you all have a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. May the force be
Wait,
with you.
I wanted to say that part. Dang it.
Here you go. Say
All right, guys, have a great one. May the force be with you.
it. Bye, y'all.
Bye.